老爸，我回来了。老爸，是我，小李。爸，最近还好吧？爸，我知道现在农民日子不好过，最近李子卖的怎么样？爸，你知道上海的 KTV 啤酒免费不限量，任你喝。爸，
重新为你规划路线。
哎，这乡下可真要命。哎，对了，你不是认识路吗？
我来看一下我的手机。
您已到达目的地。
爸，
走，那我给你倒杯水。哒哒哒哒哒哒哒哒，哇，喜不喜欢？太好吃了，来。
好漂亮。
哎呀，我就是整天忙着果园里头的事情，根本没空做其他的，就整天吃包子，
好，
是吧？
好，谢谢。
我就吃昨天的，好吃。
好香。
对，你小时候啊最喜欢就吃包子了，你妈老叫你包子脸。哎，你这个西装料子真好啊，看上去很高级啊，你看上去混得不错哦，干什么来呀？
我在一家美国智能手机公司当经理，主要负责对外工厂业务拓展。你看啊，我们公司呢，为了响应农村振兴战略计划的号召，考虑把我们的工厂迁到农村来，所以我这次来也是想问问你。
别说了，你吃包子吧，冷了不好吃。
哦，我是 gluten free。
什么
gluten free？
你再讲一遍。
gluten free
没听懂。
就是对小麦过敏，不能吃包子、面条、饺子。
你不是从小吃这些东西大的吗？怎么会过敏？
面食过敏是在一定年龄阶段才发展出来的。有研究表明，面食过敏很有可能与小麦种植期间使用劣质的杀虫药有帮助。
拿走，赶紧拿走，别吃了，
哎，别
扔掉。
你别
干嘛不
别
想做？
别浪费，真别浪费，
扔掉，
没事。
别吃了，越远越好，
别浪费
越好，别吃了。我给你弄点其他吃的。
别麻烦了，我叫外卖吧。
冷冻水饺吃不吃啊？
我叫外卖，想吃啥？日韩料理、龙虾烧烤、川湘菜、寿司吃不吃？寿司？寿司吃不吃？
又贵又不好吃。别了，
没事，
省钱。
没事，有钱，
省钱，你要花钱
有的是钱。
你女朋友有了没有啊？你交女朋友还要
叫好了，30分钟后到。
你刚才咋说的？你说。
爸，你为啥还留在这儿？
你什么意思？我们家有李子园，得有人照顾啊。
爸，根据国家的研究，农民已经跟不上现代化的步伐了，工业化是将来必然的发展趋势，农业已经没有前途了。
那你准备像别人一样把你老爸扔到工厂里头去？
我不是这个意思，爸，我是说，你把你这块地卖给我们公司，你搬到城里来跟我一起住。
不行，没门，不行。
爸，你想跟邻居这么打打闹闹到什么时候？你又不是小孩了，你不怕别人笑话吗？
你以为我闹着玩呢？我是要保卫我们家果园，斗争。
姓吴的偷咱们家李子，是因为你也偷他们家走地鸡呀。现在就剩你这一个人了，你这还有劲吗？你一人在这，你要出什么事我都不知道，你知不知道？我又联系不上你，平时我能怎么办啊？我问你。
儿子，你爸没事，我有我的电视机，还有卡拉 OK 机。
爸，上海的 KTV， 你只要在手指上，在屏幕上一划，上千首不同年代的歌，任你挑选，想唱什么唱什么。还有啤酒也是不限量，任你喝，你想喝多少喝。
我不喝啤酒，我就喝我自己的酒。你看我的卡拉 OK 机多漂亮，我就喜欢这机器。那你说我还要去大城市干嘛啊？女士们、先生们，欢迎各位光临我的演唱会。好，开始。雪花飘飘，北风萧萧，天地一片苍茫。因为爱着你，开走一盏渔火。
你这破东西有蓝牙吗？
什么蓝牙？
我来连连看。
The Bluetooth device is ready to pair.
你看这么多首歌，你想唱什么？来看看。那英、周杰伦、Lady Gaga，
听说你喜欢的吧？
你确定？
我跟。
My stick too thick, coming hard like a...
我这个卡拉 OK 机里边4首歌是我最喜欢的。这果园不是我能卖的。你出生的时候，这地契上就写着你的名字。我一直担心你一个人在大城市闯荡，万一混得不好，有一天你会回来的。哎呀，喝水吧，饭这么咸。
KTV 机不是有4首歌吗？
我最喜欢这首歌，好听。
这是不是？
想起来了吧？你小时候会唱。午夜的收音机轻轻传来一首歌，那是你我都已熟悉的旋律。在你遗忘的时候，我依然还记得。明天你是否依然爱我？我早已经来，你来试试。相信终会有一天，你一定会离去。明天你是否依然爱我？所有的故事只能有一首主题歌。我知道你最后的选择。所有的爱情只能有一个结果，我深深知道，那绝对不是我。
这么多年了，一点也没变啊。
我是想问你，为什么你一直没告诉我，你是割了肺？
爸，没啥大事儿。
怎么没大事？你再也不能吃包子啦，这可是你终身大事啊！车来了。
走了啊，爸。
哦，小心点。有太难过，午夜里的旋律一直重复着那首歌。Will you still love me tomorrow？ 怎么样，行吗？有点跟不上啊，害我也跟不上了。还亏你在大城市唱卡拉 OK 呢，哎呀，真是。以后用都会讲，
Apocalyptic scenes from California, wildfire season in that state.
Over 8,000 wildfires since the beginning of the year. It's taken a disastrous toll on the state.
A year-round fire season.
Last fire season, I wasn't sleeping very well. I was having nightmares about natural disasters, crying a lot, lost my appetite, couldn't really write. I felt so upset all the time, and it made me wonder. It turns out climate psychology is an entire field. So I called a bunch of climate psychologists, and they all said the same thing, that I'm not special. 75% of young people say they're afraid of the future.
The emotions in and of themselves are not a problem. In fact, they're our allies. They're signals telling us that something is terribly wrong.
That's Leslie. She's a climate therapist. And before focusing on climate change, Leslie ran a hospital psychology clinic for 25 years, working with terminally and chronically ill patients, which meant a lot to me because I've been living with chronic illness for most of my life. I liked Leslie. She laughs a lot. And I just really love the way she says, So I asked her to be my climate therapist.
Well, I'm glad we finally get to start.
Right away, I had to admit something. To be honest with you, I'm not really sure what my goal should be.
So conventionally, emotional resiliency is described as the ability to bounce back to our baseline after a stressful event. I don't think that definition works very well anymore as we face climate change because there's really not a going back. So rather than, it's happening to me, I can't do anything, what shall I do? I'll just have a glass of wine. I believe we need to almost make an evolutionary leap together to remain more present, grounded, clear-minded, empathetic in the face of increasing distress.
Would you consider me to be a calm person? I can't even say it. A calm person.
If by calm you mean constantly thinking of worst case scenarios to the point that it's actually kind of impressive that you can function as a human, then yeah, you're pretty calm.
Okay, well, thank you for that. I definitely had some room for improvement.
Have you landed on kind of what you anticipate the future to be?
Lately I've noticed when I wake up in the morning, it sounds kind of dramatic, but my first thought is, what is the point? Like, what is the point of getting out of bed? What is the point of showering? What is the point of eating, working? What is the point of any of it? Leslie said the way I think about climate change is what's called doomism.
It's hopeless. There's nothing we can do anyway. It's kind of a different...
Which she said, psychologically, is actually not that different from denial.
We keep hearing that 2014 has been the warmest year on record. I asked the chair, you know what this is? It's a snowball from outside here.
In a way, it's harder emotionally to be in this is an unfolding story. There's some really big threats. We're not sure how and when.
Our brains hate uncertainty. Some studies have even shown that we're calmer when anticipating pain than when we're uncertain about the future.
It's like medically. Sometimes when people get a not good medical diagnosis, there's almost a relief. Because it's like, oh, okay, I know what this terrible thing is.
But my so-called doomism about climate change had led me to become disengaged. And there was another problem with my cynicism. It was leading me to feel pretty empty in the rest of my life.
Especially if we go to that numbing place, that dissociative checked out place. It doesn't just remove us from the pain, it removes us from life, including the beautiful things.
What can I do about that? Is there a way to like renovate your brain?
All right, so if you can do this, let the soles of your feet rest against the floor and begin to feel yourself present in your body. And just almost be like daydreaming, letting yourself feel the distress while you track my hand with your eyes.
Leslie began asking me to visualize my feelings as a
Place, an environment.
that I could physically inhabit. The fear, the hopelessness, the anger,
The guilt, the cynicism.
the grief, the uncertainty.
See what else you can tell about it. Depth. And what about the temperature? What about the breadth? Anything else that you can learn about its characteristics?
I am in the middle of a field, and I feel like in some ways the smallest thing.
Okay, good. Good. Just take a moment with that. What else do you become aware of?
Then Leslie would ask me to look around and see if there was anything I had missed, anything I could pick up or crawl inside or climb on top of, anything that would keep me safe.
And because it's dark and scary looking, is there anything that you're needing right now to feel safe or comfortable as we continue to explore? And whenever something begins to take shape, I'd like you to describe aloud what you notice while you keep your eyes closed.
I notice a bed of bright green moss
Okay.
and imagined laying down on it.
Okay. Okay.
I have been feeling calmer, but I'm also feeling a bit guilty about that. I can't help but feel like it's selfish to tend to yourself in such a collective crisis, if that makes sense.
I'm really fascinated by this new development that's coming into psychology now called polyvagal theory, where we're learning that our nervous systems start to sync up with each other. So in other words, we're kind of emotionally contagious. To the degree that we can attend to ourselves, regulate ourselves, it is a generous act for other people, because others are going to experience the benefits in their own nervous system by catching on to what we've been able to do for ourselves.
There's this Virginia Woolf essay I love called On Being Ill. In it, she says that only the chronically ill are initiated into a sort of secret knowledge, a truth about the future that plays out in the microcosm of a sick body. What, after all, she writes, nature is at no pains to conceal. That she in the end will conquer. The heat will leave the world. The sun will go out.
One thing that's coming to mind, before I was focusing on climate, I worked for about 25 years in a hospital, so I was working with people with life-threatening illnesses. And when someone gets a diagnosis like that, there's kind of similar to climate change. People kind of hope for a cure that may or may not come. in the right time. And so there started to be a conversation about the difference between healing and curing. Where curing would be, okay, we're going to beat this cancer, and life's going to go back to normal. And healing being more where we don't turn away from the unknowns, a growth into all the possibilities for whatever duration of life there is, that has meaning, that has purpose, that doesn't require knowing an outcome.
In her essay, Woolf says that while on the one hand, the sick are aware of a kind of darkness that's concealed from healthy people, they also understand better than anyone where they can go to find the light. This place, she says, is kind of like heaven, but it isn't above us. It's within us. Some green isle for the mind to rest on, she writes, even if the foot cannot plant itself there. Climate change is a diagnosis, and like any serious diagnosis, it threatens to crush our sense of hope, our will to keep going, our desire for the future. To cope, our minds have to evolve. We have to learn, like Virginia Woolf learned 100 years ago, or Leslie learned in the hospital clinic, that even when there's no cure, it's still possible to heal.
The coconut tree, or niu, is a fundamental practice of food sovereignty or food security. I like to view it as ho'ea'ea, the return to freedom with freedom. It means we've regained our footing in a natural system that allows us to eat once again more simply, to share once again without money. It stimulates a sharing economy that allows us to empower ourselves. So Niu Now is a movement of beloveds to learn how we can recover this relationship with our beloved tree of life. Today, the coconut in Hawaii is considered an ornamental tree and a liability. We have thousands of niu on Oahu, but most coconut trees do not have coconuts in them, as the nuts are cut down before they mature enough to eat. This has now become an issue because of the food insecurity of our communities. Aloha mai kākoa pau. My name is Manulani Aluli Meyer, and my ohana hails from Mo'okapu, Kailua, and I come from those places along with Hilo Paleku on Mokuokeawe, Hawaii Island.
Yeah, it's a good coconut. We can eat it tonight. We'll have the nut for the dinner and the husk for planting tomorrow.
Aloha. My name is Indrajit Kumara Samarasinghe Gunasekara. I am from Nadugala, Matara, southern Sri Lanka. Coconut is a part of our Sinhala culture. As long as we've been in that island, we ate coconut. This is a food-producing tree. This is food.
Around.
Working with Auntie Manu, it is her and mine shared hope in Hawaii, having coconut in the tree, and to start in this very nursery to germinate that dream.
So Indrajit was making this, everyone thinks it's some ancient China. No, this is his Ulu Niu game plan. This is the plan for tomorrow. Do you see where the Ulu are and the Niu? Can you tell?
Tomorrow is our Ulu Niu last and final planting day. We've been planting and preparing the soil for the last 2 years. They've given us 11,000 square feet to produce a dryland forest. What a miracle.
So to get the ground ready, the first thing is we need to get the husk broken down as small as possible, yeah? Now we let them sit in 2 days in the water. So this water here, this moisture, is going to stay for several months, even in the hot sun. Putting that on the ground, that will retain the moisture and will be good for the plant.
We are so grateful to have Indrajit and his knowledge of the new that's come from thousands and thousands of years of practice, breakfast, lunch, and dinner. We're all neonates, you know, but he's the head coconut head. He's the head coconut.
I think it was a month ago we had the rain here. You see? Moisture, water. This husk, this is our surviving here.
In Hawaii, the word for land is Aina. Aina means that which feeds, that which nourishes. Kumu is the source. Kumu is teacher. Kumu is our word for tree. And so this kumu niu is the idea that all trees become our teachers.
This is something our elder told me. Somebody that know about this area, Kupuna. The stories tell that this was a royal coconut grove. Hundreds of coconut, hundreds of new. Now it's down to tree. My opinion, I see this as a loss to this place. What if this was the last tree of this variety been in this island?
The idea of diversity within niu, within coconuts, is very important. We have really enjoyed, you know, people's faces when they say, what? There's more than one coconut variety? Yes, there is. It's like the difference with humanity. We have to be different to survive. We have to be different to allow our talents and excellence to be recognized, and then the collaborations are stronger. Same thing with the niu.
Most coconut growing places has a record. People know what varieties they have. Categories of coconut. We don't have it yet here. This tree, this Manoa green tall, they chopped the tree down. Looking at 4,000 trees and collecting over 1,000 coconut. I'm still looking for that pointed end nut. I haven't found that variety yet. Yeah, you know, I'm still hope. Hope is still live in these trees. If we give a little bit better care and get some seed to grow.
How we lost the knowledge of niu is a very tender topic. But I can say this, that the United States illegally took my nation in 1893, and we are healing from that. I believe sovereignty goes to freedom when we are able to activate ourselves in that healing process with America, with our Polynesian cousins, with ourselves. So the niu became an ornamental tree for tourists. And the nuts were taken out because they caused danger. And our tree of life became an ornamental liability. The maintaining of that is my problem to fix. So colonization is indeed rampantly choking us until you realize, just step away from the chokehold. Plant. Feed ourselves with our own forests, with our own trees of sustenance and beauty and culture and empowerment. Feed ourselves. Do it ourselves. This is what Niu Now is about. It's joyful recognizing that yes, we did get cut away from our land. We did get severed from our government. And now 120 years later, we're able to see that history as part of our own facet of evolution. And so people like Indrajit from southern Sri Lanka can help us heal. It doesn't matter who, it matters that we are healing collectively.
Okay, we are going with our inventory here. And if you see in the chart, this is a 1D and the 1D over there. Those two plants will be planted today.
You excited?
Yes. I'm always excited, but this today is especially something about today.
Aloha e kia kua na kini o kua na auma kua na kupuna kia wahi puna hele. Aloha mai ka koa pau. Maloko ne, mawaho ne. Feel our gratitude.
One group can work on picking the weed out and pulling them down, and the other team can break the husk.
Anytime you expose people, and especially youth, to aina work, to land work, you expose them to the possibilities of their own internal wakefulness. And that is thrilling to me, because the kids love it. And I'm like, wow, you guys like working hard, sweating, and fatigue work? Like, yeah, Auntie. I love that. Because when the kids can see what they've done, then they can know that anything is possible. And believe me, to turn this barren, dry, hot lands into a vibrant, living forest, that'll change anybody. That's our goal.
What it means for me to know this knowledge as a student and as a future person to come and help the food system, as a future Hawaiian, I see it as a form of liberation, as a form of sovereignty. Indrajit showed me his connection with Niu, with coconut. I never grew up with Niu the way he did, but I have the ability, I grew up with Kalo, you know what I mean? I took that framework that he has and I was able to adopt it to Kalo. And I feel a great sense of understanding and connection to it because it's my ancestors that used to farm this.
The beauty of the coconut, right? The coconut travels still all over the world by itself. When we realize that we're just traveling with the coconut and regaining this knowledge and experience from different people, different cultures, different languages, it puts you in a different perspective of like what learning can be and what evolution, what a revolution can be for our people. To me, in its core, it's about aloha aina, malama aina, and really taking care of our people.
Say that. Don't be afraid to Oli. The next one is kuku. Talking like kuku. Kuku la. That's the sprout.
Chanting, conjuring life into our plants is a new thing and old thing at the same time. And it's new for this group, but old for Hawaii. There is the little kupu, there is the sprout. And mu'o is the new sprout that's forming into leaves, mu'o. And then laula is you can start to see the leaves. And then the lala is the branches. And then the kumu is the tree. And then e ulu meaning, please grow, 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 grow. Ulu means to grow. It's like a spiritual connection to life. So yeah, we're basically conjuring forth life with our own life. What can you do to join in a worldwide movement to understand the purpose of trees? That's a lot. You can do a lot. Understand what's around your neighborhood. Value indigenous knowledge. Allow for the history of a place to be known. This is not about coconuts. This is about friendship. This is about continuity. This is about joy. This is about the essence of life. And we happen to have the form in growing coconuts. You know what I mean?
The tree, the seed that can float over 3,000 miles over 100 days and find the land and grow. Such a tree with that potential inspired us in 1,000 years. It because that tree lived with us for that long, we became a part of coconut tree. Coconut tree became part of us in the tropical world. When we come to that realization again, it's an awakening. We call this a new now movement. Movements have no limitation.
Kupu kaniu, kupu ke kanaka, pua kaniu, pua ka wahine ui hua kaniu, hua na keiki, na pula pula o ka ahina. E ia ko niu la, e ke akua.